I own a collection of 6 pied-à-terres, if you will, all around the world. And a lot of people don't understand why. They say, wouldn't a real rich guy just own one big mansion with an orangery and ducks floating in a pond? So today I'm going to tell you why I chose to accumulate smaller properties around the world rather than one big home. So one of the simple reasons is personality. And if you work with Nomad Capitalist, we're going to ask you questions to create your holistic plan that get to the heart of your personality, because everybody's different. I am more risk averse. I look at money more as a security tool. And so buying numerous properties over the course of time allows me to be more security conscious and deploy smaller amounts of capital at different times. And rather than saying, hey, I'm going to spend 5 million euros on a house right now, I can go to a place that is a more affordable country and I can get different properties. And I just enjoy that process. On top of the fact that it allows me to basically do the research for you guys and our clients and say, hey, here's my experience in this country, that country, the other. Whereas if it's just, hey, 5 million euros, $5 million on one property, I wouldn't be able to do that. But I'm going to walk you through the benefits of having a diversified portfolio of homes around the world and how you can use that to your advantage. I'm Andrew Henderson. I'm the founder of Nomad Capitalist. We have over the last decade built an incredible in-house team of experts as well as a network of experts all around the world, attorneys and real estate agents and accountants, to help 1,000 plus high and ultra high net worth individuals legally reduce their taxes, increase their freedom with dual citizenship, and build their opportunities around the world. One of the opportunities that I have having these 6 pied-à-terres is that I have bases in different parts of the world. So for me, it's Bogota in Latin America. There's not that many places in Latin America that I'm a big fan of. So I'm not as Latin America focused. I've always been more Europe and Asia focused. Big cluster in kind of Eastern Europe where I have people who work for us. Turkey, Istanbul being kind of an air hub. So Belgrade, Montenegro on the seaside, which is very accessible for folks who maybe can't get into Europe. If I have friends from other parts of the world, they can come and visit there more easily. Istanbul, and then Tbilisi, Georgia. And then in Asia, Kuala Lumpur. And so for me, if I'm doing business in Latin America, I can go and stay at my home in Bogota. It's a nice jumping off point where Nomad Capitalist Live was in Mexico City. 2021 was in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. That's a 4.5 hour flight. It's relatively easy. And so one of the things that I see as a world traveler is I no longer like schlepping stuff around. And so I can have a wardrobe in Bogota, which has a few pieces for if I go somewhere warm, if I want to go to Cartagena, if I want to go somewhere that's more warm in the Caribbean or in Mexico. And then I have a wardrobe there that's basically for Bogota and for any of the kind of South American places that I want to go. And so I would jump up to Mexico. I would jump up to Panama. Had a meeting last year in Uruguay. And so just, easily pop down there. Until you're doing this, you won't understand. Like I had a team member come and join me in Uruguay from Eastern Europe. And it was like flying to Frankfurt, flying to Sao Paulo, flying to Uruguay. It's like you get off the plane and you practically collapse. And so being able to say, okay, I'm going to position myself in Bogota. I'm doing some other stuff in South America, and I'll just pop down on a 6-hour flight is a lot easier. I've already got the wardrobe. I've already got everything I need, and it's just all in one place. There is a lifestyle benefit there because I'm a big believer in you've got to maximize your energy. Quite frankly, maintaining these properties does not require a ton of energy. I have a personal assistant. I didn't always have a personal assistant, honestly. It took me a long time before I found someone who understood this very, wild kind of international lifestyle who I would trust to do it. But, paying bills, these countries in some cases are more laid back. You can often pay them online. You can give somebody cash to pay. I mean, the maintenance of these properties, honestly, is much easier than the maintenance of a property in the United States, in my experience, or a property maybe in some more bureaucratic destinations. And so as someone who does business globally, and as someone who wants to live globally, just from a lifestyle perspective, forget business, forget tax, forget any of that, I just want to be able to pop into Latin America when I want. And so Colombia, for example, offered me a permanent residence in exchange for buying a property. So that is something where I can work my way towards citizenship, which if I have Colombian citizenship, I have access to all of South America. I can travel with an ID card. There's certain kind of investment benefits potentially to that. And so I'm getting residence or citizenship by making these investments. In Turkey, for example, if you buy property in Istanbul, you have the option. You can get a residence permit. If you'd like to get a citizenship, you can do that. The citizenship has a $400,000 requirement. The residence potentially is lower. So if you like the idea of, as I do, I fly through Istanbul all the time. It's nice to say, all right, you know what, let me get a hub and let me test this out and let me share with you guys what happens. I'd rather have, when I'm flying through Istanbul, a place that I can go and chill out and, do a lot of shopping that I wouldn't have in, let's say, other hubs in Eastern Europe. And so it kind of serves as a refueling point. And I in addition to just being very well diversified, the property has gone up in value. Again, you can get, if you wanted a citizenship, you can get that. So you're getting residence and citizenship benefits that if you just invested in one country, maybe that country would be your home country, you already have a citizenship there, and so you're kind of missing out on the benefit of building your portfolio of residences and passports that you can use as a place to go. It's contributed to a feeling where I feel very well protected, no matter what happens financially with countries going after people's money, no matter what happens geopolitically, no matter what happens really in any aspect. I feel like I've spent many, many, many years building up my diversification, banks and companies and properties and all that, to where I can go wherever I want and I will be welcomed. I will be able to, just survive even, in these times. So energy to me is important. Feeling, if you live in a country where they're increasingly coming after successful people, they want to raise taxes, the culture's changing, whatever it is, have a place to live. And so if you just have one mansion, you're stuck in that one mansion. And then you just have to basically cross your fingers and hope like, oh, I hope this country always does well. For me, being able to make smaller investments into different places means I can be very well diversified. I don't have this typical, the rich guy mentality. I need my, 10,000 square feet. My biggest property in Malaysia is about 3,300 square feet, kind of the size of maybe a little bit larger U.S. house, and quite frankly, it's kind of nice. I am not someone who wants to flex. I don't get fancy cars. There's certain things I like that are nice. I don't need to show off, look at me. And by the way, a $600,000 house in Malaysia is probably equivalent to, a $3 million house in many parts of the United States. And most people don't have a $3 million house. And so you can get really quality stuff at a much lower price. Some of my properties are definitely pied-à-terres where you wouldn't want to be there all the time. But if you have one or two people, if you're just let's say Belgrade, business hub, or Tbilisi, somewhat a business hub. You can go there, maybe you spend a week, maybe you spend 2 weeks. You can have the nice food, you can have the nice wine, you can meet certain people, you can get business done, you can get your lifestyle stuff done. If you have family in one of these places, you can go and meet them, and then you go somewhere else. You don't necessarily need to have a large property. And so for some folks, let's say you're from the United States, maybe you want to have a pied-à-terre where your family is, but you're going to have your bigger home somewhere else where you're going to get residence, and then you're going to have another home where you can get citizenship. And so you can kind of arbitrage that. I also want diversification on a financial level because look at what happened in Greece, for example, during the financial crisis. They just jacked up your property taxes through the roof. If you've got one property there, again, you've got to cross your fingers and hope. And so, what if your property taxes were already, 5,000 euros and now they're 30,000 euros? Sure, if you're making a seven-figure income, you can afford that. But do you want one place to have total control over you? I have smaller properties that, the property taxes are very low. Even in Malaysia, well under $1,000 a year for a decent sized property. And on top of that, look at certain countries where they say, oh, if you have, there's not a lot of countries that do this, but if a country has a wealth tax, they might tax assets in the country. So if you've got more than $1 million in assets, they're going to tax that. I don't really mind paying property taxes. I would mind if I were living in Canada or New York or something like that, where they're just insane. I don't mind paying, some fair amount of property tax to contribute to the country. But I certainly wouldn't want to be jacked up to $40,000 a year, and I certainly wouldn't want them to have the power to say, oh, well, we're going after mansions. It's a mansion tax. They talk about that in some of the northeastern states in the U.S. Let's have a mansion tax. Or we have a wealth tax. If you've got anything more than $1 million, we're going to tax you just based on your wealth and your real estate is included. And so if you're under that threshold, then you're going to be able to avoid that. And again, I'm not saying that I just want to pay zero on properties, but I'm saying I don't want them to have the control to just go crazy. I literally know people in New York who are paying $30,000 in property taxes a year. The opportunity cost on that over time is absolutely insane. And since I'm happy to live in places where it's not so bad, then it works out very well for me. And so for me, I don't want to stay in hotels. I don't want to stay at Airbnbs. I've stayed well over 1,000 nights in hotels. And I want to have control over how the decor is. You can go to a nice hotel and the decor is generally nice. But, they're always if you stay there for any length of time, they're always taking your stuff. And I lost my Elizabeth Warren Billionaire Tears mug at our hotel in Mexico because they come in and they're like, oh, this is a mug. I'll move it over there. And then I forgot my Billionaire's Tear mug. I got the mug. My friend bought it for me. And now it's gone. I wanted to show it to you. And so if you have a house, you don't lose your Billionaire Tears mug. So, you stay in hotels, the decor is nice, the Wi-Fi is terrible, and I have a house in Malaysia, I've got the 1 gig internet. If you get 5 meg internet in some of these fancy hotels, you're lucky. I mean, they just don't know how internet works in 2022. If they leave your stuff alone, if you can ever get a dish brought to your room in less than 2 hours, you're in good shape. And meanwhile, in Airbnbs, I've never stayed in an Airbnb where I felt like it has this very faux sense of hominess that isn't the way I would decorate things. I'm a big believer in energy. And so if you're doing business in different parts of the world, you have a wardrobe ready to go in each home. You don't have to be dragging suitcases between each place. You don't have to be, like, you're just ready to go. Your food is ready to go. I have all my teas. So like everything you want is set up, and you're spending less time like with friction. For me, the energy of the environment that you're staying in is important. And so when I see people who are like filming, or people who are working in, like rooms that are all white walls, I'm like, how do you get anything done? Like, don't you just start to go kind of crazy? Maybe I'm just a little bit too creative and that stuff bothers me. But even like a rental where the owner says, oh, don't hang any pictures, makes me go nuts. And so I happen to think that if you focus on your energy as an entrepreneur, you're going to make a lot more money than, living in a place where you're very comfortable. And so having pied-à-terres, you can decorate a pied-à-terre relatively affordably. You can furnish a pied-à-terre relatively affordably. I like to have each place have a different vibe. So when I go there, I just really feel like I'm there. These are things that motivate me to be more productive, and they help me to really enjoy this global citizenship lifestyle. And I wouldn't necessarily have that. I like the vibe, and I was telling our videographer, like, I want to go to Belgrade and have teas and have fragrances and have like decor and the furniture, and like everything should be like, what would this be in Belgrade? Like the books on the bookshelf should be like, what's the story of Belgrade? You may not necessarily like that, but for me, I really contributes to productivity. So when I go to Belgrade, I feel that vibe, I get into it, and I think it really creates a great energy. Too many entrepreneurs don't focus on energy. And when I watch like Elon Musk saying he wants to live in like a little, shack, I totally respect that, and I respect Elon Musk, and I think it's fantastic that he's able to do that. I think that a lot of people, the environment does create a sense of where they're going. He's already ultra rich. The rest of us who are trying to become wealthier, I think, function where everything's just kind of working. You have what you need. You're not, looking for anything. And so that's why, since I am traveling around the world, since we do business internationally, since I'm trying to expand into different parts of the world, it's nice for people to say, hey, I'm going to go to South America. I'm going to stop off here. And if I need to go somewhere from there, I will. It's a lot harder to do when you've got one big mansion. And the utility of having, 10,000 square feet, 1,000 square meters, having a duck pond in the back, like that wouldn't add to my life. It wouldn't. Maybe at some point I'd like to have a summer villa and have a pool in the back and of my own, and just have some nice olive trees or something. I have the land, I could do that. I just don't know the utility of having so much space versus being able to travel around the world and be at home.